My ugliness was my first memory of myself. I can't say exactly what it was that made me so different from normal people. My skin is like crumpled cloth, scars curving in bizarre patterns on my cheeks, my left eye barely open, and my nose, since I was a child, is still in place, as if broken forever. Perhaps if I had been born without this deformity, my life would have taken a very different path. But no, fate likes to mock me, and I confess I've long since gotten used to its mockery. I remember a fragment of my childhood. The city of Azoi, the capital of the kingdom of Vitalia, streets swathed in colorful fabrics, spicy aromas wafting from every direction. My parents, kind, loving, though now, after so many years of suffering, I'm not sure some of it was true. I remember feeling like they were protecting me, but I noticed a strange, dismissive, and distressed expression in my father's eyes at times. Later I learned to read that look, a mixture of guilt, fear, and pity, and now I knew it was more like disgust than anything else. After my parents were killed by Palan, troops under the command of some madman named John Poroshuski, I was left alone. None of my neighbors or acquaintances took pity on my rotten skin. Eventually, I came to the attention of a well-known mage in Azoi, who must have thought there was some potential in the ugly face, or he just needed a cheap ragamuffin assistant for his experiment. Be that as it may, he took me under his wing, and I departed for the famous trading city of Kaltros, one of the greatest settlements in Vitalia. It was there that the huge Lahiri library was located, and I was assigned to work there. This colossal building, whose archives seemed to extend dozens of stories deep into the earth, had a life of its own. Mages and scholars, scribes and chroniclers, sorcerers, and even novice alchemists all scurried between stone halls and tall shelves overflowing with scrolls and manuscript. Each was immersed in his own research. Some were scrupulously writing out rare formulas, others were digging into ancient maps, others were recording the history of newly discovered land. My lot was much more modest. I helped to collect information about new territories and outlandish finds, and then had to hand in reports to the local scribe, so he can put it all into neat scrolls for the archive. There are times I thought I'd much rather be writing my own story, how I was born to become a mage and fix my face. But those thoughts quickly faded before the stares. No one was particularly sympathetic to my face. In the library, as in the city itself, one could see creatures from all corners of the kingdom. White-skinned humans, swarthy southerners, newcomers from the east, dwarves and elves, and goblins who ran errands, thieving, but industrious. It seemed like so many different races and cultures. But still, when I appeared, there were whispers and whisperings behind me. On one of my usual work days, I got tired of the clacking of quills and rustling of parchments, and decided to go out into the small courtyard adjacent to the library. And there, as luck would have it, I bumped into a disdainfully smiling elf. The elf's appearance is traditionally graceful, refined, with smooth facial features and a contemptuously raised eyebrow. He looked me over like garbage pulled from some ditch. He said, with a slight smirk,
"I hear you've been assigned to help us. Where are you going with a face like that? Maybe I shouldn't carry you." Oh, I forgot you've got your hands and feet on you.
I understandably exploded, quietly without shouting but angry. If I could, I'd curse you so that all the mirrors would flee from your face. But go on, pour out your poison. The elf burst out laughing.
"Take it easy, freak. I just want to understand how you managed to get into the Lahir library in the first place. I suppose the head wizard saw talent in you."
To be honest, I don't know what I would have said to him if it hadn't been for the sharp voice behind me. It was one of our senior colleagues.
"Hey, you got a message for the head wizard. Now."
His voice was dry and businesslike. I glared angrily at the elf, but he gave me a smug look, and I shuffled away. My day had been lousy enough as it was, but as it turned out, it had more surprises in store. The chief mage sat in one of the upper halls of the library, a spacious room, pervaded by soft light, with tall windows adorned with stained glass. He was old, but there was a cold authority in his gaze. He turned to me.
"We have urgent business. The flying eye of one of our colleagues has discovered Urun-Thal, a mysterious place of which we had only vague legends. There, as seen through a crystal, There is a cracked earth from which strange hooded figures crawl out. None of our books describe these entities in detail, watching through the crystal. But the connection was suddenly lost.
When the mage uttered the words lost communication, his voice trembled. Even an old warrior could be embarrassed, apparently. So something really serious was going on in Urun-Thal.
You have to travel to the southern lands to this mysterious crack, but the journey is long and dangerous. Normally, we would let you travel by caravan, but we don't have time. We're gonna have to use the portal. It's a monumental effort, so you'll have 2 security witnesses to go with you. They will follow you and confirm that everything you find there is true.
I chuckled bitterly then. Who'd have doubted that I wasn't trusted in the slightest? Yet, you'd think someone like me, a pathetic freak, would purposely lie about a nasty wasteland in the distance. But why me? I asked involuntarily. The mage leaned back in his chair.
Probably because you've already completed a couple missions outside the kingdom and have shown yourself to be resilient. Yes, you have a bad temper and a face that invites ridicule, but you're quite persistent. This is a mission for the strong of heart. Do you understand?
I didn't answer anything, only nodded. I might be pathetic, but if I could find something useful, I could advance my study of magic, perhaps open a path to improving my appearance. After all, the dream to change my face, to remove all the scars, it is alive in me, stronger than any instinct. The portal was being assembled by an entire group of mages. Many people gathered downstairs in a special stone hall where runes and circles were carved on the floor. I stood a little farther away, already in well-worn clothes, watching the great mages drawing energy lines in the air, the light pouring into the runes on the floor. A couple of witnesses, a mage with a half-closed face and a stout man with a sword drawn, apparently a warrior who knew the basics of magic, were hanging around, glancing over at me. Soon an oval flashed in the air. The soft glow was replaced by an almost blinding one. I squeezed my eyes shut and felt a strong gust of wind in front of me. Through the illuminated doorway, we could see the red desert. A moment later, we were drawn inside as if by a whirlwind. My eyes went black. I struggled to my feet. My heart was pounding like it wanted to jump out. The landscape was an endless red wasteland of towering cliffs and canyons, as if someone had burned the land to a rusty hue. The stars were shining in the sky, but a large blood moon was visible, and at the same time, there was a faint glimmer of purple sunlight on the horizon. It was strange. Day, night, moon, sun, everything was spinning, changing places much faster than it should in any normal world. I shuddered. I frowned sullenly and thought, to hell with it. If such pitiful magic is going to finish me off, so be it. Better that than rotting in this despair. But there was nowhere to retreat. The portal that the mages in the Lahir library had maintained was hanging behind me, and with difficulty. Then I realized that I had forgotten something critical: the healing pills that helped restore strength and relieve poisoning. I had them somewhere in my office. A bolt of lightning struck my mind. Without them, I might as well die if it's this hostile. I turned sharply, rushing back toward the portal. A desperate impulse beat in my head. Hurry, hurry, before the portal disappears. The witnesses ran after me, but I didn't make it. Portal closed with a hissing sound, and for just a moment I felt a puff of smoke, the outline of a bony hand. It was as if it had come out of the ground. She handed me my own pills. How she got in there, I can't imagine. An unknown pale limb, through a hole in the sand, as if from under a tombstone, shoved the jar and just dropped it at my feet. Then it disappeared, pulling itself back into the cracked red ground. My companions gasped, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. To say I was shocked was an understatement. I picked up the unfortunate pills with trembling hands, staring at them as if they might bite me. I don't see how that's even possible, I thought grimly, but for lack of a better option, I stuck them in my pocket. Who knows, they might come in handy. My life wasn't sweet as it was, and whatever this nightmare turned out to be, it had already dumbfounded me. We moved through the desert. The sand was a rough reddish color, and it seemed to move underfoot as if it were alive. I felt like I was on an alien planet the whole time. Then I could see the thin sky, and suddenly sharp gusts of wind brought the smell of sulfur. My companions, a skinny guy and the stout warrior, were walking beside me. I didn't know them well, but I could feel their gazes on me. They must have been ordered to make sure I reported everything correctly. Suddenly, time seemed to speed up around us. I looked up and saw the sun on the horizon creeping down, giving way to the night sky, and then the stars popping out by the thousands, shining with a cold light, and then the shift again. The sun surges backwards as if someone playing is rewinding the days and nights back and forth. An eerie sight. I was exhausted, shining with a cold light, and then the shift again. The sun surges backwards as if someone playing is rewinding the days and nights back and forth. An eerie sight. I was exhausted, my body was aching, my head was spinning. Suddenly, the outline of a building appeared in the distance. With every step, I realized more and more that I knew this house. I knew it very well. It was my childhood home, the same one where I had once lived with my parents before the Palan troops took their lives. I froze, unable to believe my eyes, but as I got a little closer, I saw not only the house, but part of the street with it, as if this fragment of my past had been ripped out of the real world and implanted right into that red sand. A lane, who was walking ahead of me, stopped abruptly and stared at something in the sand. A real illusion, or was it reality?
Hey, wait.
The warrior called out to me.
You can't go in there. It's an obsession.
But I didn't hear. It seemed to me that my mother was standing at the gate, calling my name, calling me in a thin, loving voice. A hot wave of memories burned my brain. I felt despair climbing under my ribs. Mother, is she here? This is impossible. My companions rushed toward me, trying to hold me back, but I pushed them away in a fit of rage. I was filled with the anger that I had saved up all my life. I had to run to that door, to my mother, to my father. They were there. I could hear their voices. My so-called defenders were shouting something behind me, but I had already slipped towards the house and stormed inside. Inside, it looked almost exactly as it had in my childhood memories. An old wooden table, a half-weathered carpet on the floor. My mother was sitting in an armchair, her eyes shining with warmth, reflecting something very familiar. My father stood beside me, looking at me. The same happy light burned in his gaze. I fell on my mother's lap and put my head in her lap like a little boy. She ran her hand through my hair. That gesture, that smell, for a moment I believed it was real. No red desert, no Urun-Thal. Just the warm piece of home where my father and mother were alive.
My son,
Whispered the mother.
how you've grown. I've missed you so much.
Me too, I whispered, struggling to hold back the tears. My father moved closer, putting his arm around my shoulder. Their voices sounded harmonious at first, like a single wave of affection and joy, but then I felt something disturbing. My speech was suddenly slurred, my words vibrated. Shadows seemed to creep into the room. My mother continued to stroke me, but her hand was cold now. I looked up and saw her face, subtly deformed, ticking on something inanimate. My father spoke in the same voice as my mother, in sync.
We are now happy in the realm of the dead. We are happy there. We were waiting for you.
The cold chilled me to the bone. They were obviously saying something I didn't want to hear. I tried to pull away, but my mother's hands held me tight. Her eyes stared at me with a monstrous mixture of love and threat. Suddenly, my mother hissed, clutching the knife in her other hand.
You know, baby, I thought about killing you when you were born. Your disfigurement, it was worse than any disease. Remember when you were just a kid and I picked up a knife? I wish I'd done it back then.
I recoiled as if I'd been doused with boiling water. My heart was pounding. Not this. Not now. My father added in the same distorted voice.
Yeah, remember. We both secretly dreamed of interrupting your journey as infants. Your arrival is a curse on us.
Everything they said was like a bad nightmare, with their voices echoing in two mouths repeating each other. I felt panic rise in my chest, fear and chilling pain. Pull yourself together, I shouted to myself in my mind. It's not them. It's some kind of Dionysian illusion. They're dead, long ago. You saw their cold bodies, but no matter how many times I repeated it, the images of the past came back to me. My mother was standing over me, waving the knife, her face stretched into a monstrous grimace.
I should have killed you before you grew those ugly hands so you couldn't fight back. Why did you even survive?
Father blended with the mother into a single silhouette, and both of them wriggled like a snake and repeated in unison. Your destiny is to die. No one loves you. There is no place for such a freak. I squeezed my eyes shut, my hands fumbling for something like a fragment of wall. I had to break free. I had to remember that I was a mage. I may not be the strongest or the most talented, but I had some power. Leave me alone, I roared, venting my frustration. The walls shuddered. I felt sparks of power erupt around me, a muffled echo of my magical energy. The flash made the illusory parent stop for a moment, mouths open, as if furious. Bending over my ear, my mother hissed.
Your magic will not heal your face, and you will never find salvation in it.
She was about to bring the knife up to stab me in the chest when I lunged, my palm pressing against her wrist. Her skin was cold as stone, and beneath my fingers I felt not the warmth of flesh, but the frozen cold of a corpse. It's impossible to describe how I felt. I just recoiled back, and at that moment, the door creaked open. The very two witnesses my traveling companions had broken in.
Let's go.
The warrior shouted, running up to me and grabbing me by the collar. Damn this red sand, and my own hallucinations along with it. I felt like I had just run out of the house my parents were sitting in, but as soon as we stopped behind a boulder and took a breath, things went downhill even more. The witnesses, I'm tired of calling them just those two, so I'll finally give you their names. The first, who looks more like a militant adventurer, is called Elaine. He's our witness A. The second, a more silent, slim-build magician with a closed face, is called Brain. Witness B. And, of course, I was the unfortunate magician who had been kicked harder than a race horse. We sat there panting, my mind reeling from the nightmare I'd seen. My mother, my father, the knives, the horrible accusations that I was a freak who should have been slaughtered in my cradle. I was sure it was all part of an illusion, a magic trap. But suddenly, I noticed Elaine, pale, looking at a ring on her hand.
Hey.
He began, swallowing muffledly.
Look, I have a ring that reacts to magical illusions. See, it's not lit.
He jabbed a finger at the idol frame.
But the other ring, the one that flickers when ghosts appear, flashed when we went in there.
What's that supposed to mean? I muttered, desperately hoping he was wrong.
So your parents were there for real, their bodies, well I mean, they were real dead people, not the usual morass created by outside magic.
Brain added quietly, and he seemed uncomfortable at the thought. I felt like I'd been splashed with ice water. I gasped, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Was I touching my mother's real, decomposing body when I hugged her?
But out of the goodness of our hearts, we won't say a word to the head wizard. You've had enough.
I realized at that moment that I was grateful to them, though I gritted my teeth in shame. I felt like hanging myself for the umpteenth time. But I'd already tried, and it didn't work. Okay, I breathed out and raised my hand to wipe the sweat from my forehead. Thank you. Let's keep moving. If this is real, then why are we sitting here daydreaming? We have a mission. We climbed up, skirted the boulder, and moved for the canyons. The red sheer cliffs looked like congealed blood. An eerie landscape. The sun came out and hid in the sky, and sometimes the moon came out instead. The seasons changed like my mood swings, too fast and too randomly. It seemed that just a minute ago we were walking in the dim twilight, and suddenly, bang, the sun was hovering right above us. It didn't just make me exhausted, it made me lose my sense of reality. So, it's easy to go crazy here if you don't keep an eye out for rings or other manifestations. We walked for a long time. I began to think the wind was whispering something, like the voices of the dead walking among the rocks. Elaine, who was walking ahead of me, stopped abruptly and stared at something in the sand.